Hey guys, welcome back to the eBay Resale Zone. This is a podcast where we talk all things reselling on eBay, and I'm glad you guys are here for another whole episode. In today's video, we're talking all about shipping. This is a very exciting one for me. I love talking about shipping. This is mainly talking about shipping things within Canada, but I'm sure even if you're outside of Canada, you can find some value in this. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video.
Hey guys, Jeff here with Resale Heroes, and I'm here with Commonlad.
Hey guys, I'm the Commonlad. I resell with my partner Airval, and I sell primarily video games on eBay.
Yeah, and we're full-time resellers also on eBay, focusing on video games, collectibles, and all kind of good stuff. And today, on episode 4 of the eBay Resale Zone, we're going to be talking all about shipping, what the costs are, different models, how to measure things, and basically just a crash course on where to get started. And yeah,
it's going to be good. We're going to kind of break it down in a couple sections. The first thing that we're going to talk about is how you should be setting the shipping up on your eBay page. That's everything from what sort of shipping services you should be offering, what courier you should be going with, all the way down to maybe what countries you should send with. We'll do a brief sort of introduction, I think, maybe to the international. So we're not going to talk too much about the international mail today. We're really just going to keep it within Canada for when you're starting out, which I think is kind of, if you're a beginner, where you want to start. Then we'll break down even the dimension section a little bit and tell you how to enter that stuff into eBay. For the second part of this, then we'll go on and assume that you've actually sold something and show you guys how you might want to approach it with Canada Post or whatever the courier is that you're going with, and how you're going to go about shipping that item out.
Yes, and today is going to be the Canadian edition of
the Canadian edition, right? So no international.
So I mean, it's going to be still relevant for, other people from other countries, like just the concepts, but we're going to be talking about the pricing and the models of mostly Canada Post, which is almost what we exclusively have access to here. But that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So I think the first place to start is, okay, so again, in our other videos, we talked about, all right, so now you've got, our last video, we talked about listings. So at this point, we're assuming you've got stuff in your store, like Commonlad said, that something's sold, now you got to send it out. So something that just came to my mind is that in your profile on eBay, you need to set your preferences, your shipping preferences. And what that means is it basically says, okay, are there any countries you don't ship to? Are there, what's the delay that you're giving yourself before you send an item out? And all these little things, we're not going to spend too much time on that. But what I will say is the faster you ship items, the better. So people will see that it's going to arrive to them faster because you don't have as much of a big turnaround time. Like if someone says they're not going to ship it for 5 days, well, they might just buy it from someone else instead who's going to ship it the next day.
So, and if I could add there too, eBay gives you a major disadvantage when you set your shipping and handling time higher. So again, like you're saying, they're going to put that shipping time or arrival time, I suppose, way further down the line than for somebody else. And again, they're going to drop you significantly in the rankings.
Yes, because big picture, eBay pays to get visitors on their website, and they send you those visitors or those potential buyers. And anything that would cause that potential buyer to not buy is something that they try to avoid. So you're trying to stack all the chips in your favor. So short version, I would recommend having, and I mean, if you just got a small store and you're just kind of doing this a little bit part-time, I mean, not everybody can handle a 1-day turnaround time, but if you can do like 2 days, like 2 days is kind of the sweet spot, right?
Yeah, that's the magic number.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you there. And preferences are a big part of all of this. Again, getting those sort of outlined initially off the bat is going to help you guys form a really solid shipping policy that you have on your page that you can follow. But I think when you get to the listing itself, we can break down sort of the different approaches that you're going to want to go with. And so when you're making a listing on eBay and you get to the shipping section, there's 4 really, but there's 3 that we're going to focus on here today. Main policies or approaches that you can use to ship things to your buyer. And the 3 include calculated shipping, which means that you're going to let eBay calculate the price that it's going to charge to a buyer on the platform. There's flat rate shipping, where you're going to set a flat rate that the buyer will pay for your item, and that will be anywhere that's going within the certain country. If it's Canada, it's going to be anywhere in Canada for this rate. That's what the buyer is going to pay. The third option is that you can offer free shipping, which is where the buyer is not going to pay anything for shipping and you're going to have to pay that on your end. You could add that into the price of your item, or you can just, charge it, whatever. You'll add it into the price and they're not going to pay you shipping. And the fourth option, again, which we're not going to talk about, is the local pickup option. But those are the four ways to get an item to your buyer on the eBay platform. And maybe we can break into calculated shipping first, because I think this is going to be the most common one that people are going to use, especially within Canada. Maybe not. Like, I think you use flat rate, right?
Yeah, so we use flat rate and free shipping. So I mean, these are three options. Why don't we? Yeah, sure, we can start with calculated. It doesn't really matter. But so calculated shipping, we don't really use it. I'm going to say why. Because you need, the way that it works, you need to input in the listing the dimensions of basically your box. Like, you need to have it packaged and ready to go. You need to know how much it weighs, not just the item, like the complete like package,
the box with your bubble wrap, with your everything,
and all the tape and all the labels. So you need to have that ready. And I mean, that's not as simple as it sounds. But so for us, we had that with a few of them, but then I realized that there's some hidden fees with Canada Post that don't get populated. Basically, they're not factored in to what gets charged to the buyer. Basically, the fuel surcharges, I think, is what it was. And so we were kind of not getting as much as we thought we were going to get, or basically we were getting charged more than what the buyer was getting charged. So we haven't been using calculated shipping, basically specifically because of that. But the positive, like the strong suit of the calculated shipping, is for someone that has no idea what things cost to get shipped. All you do is you basically choose, all right, Canada, the service that you choose, basically Canada Post regular parcel. You put, it's going to be 5 pounds. It's going to be, these dimensions, and they need to be relatively exact. So you're going to need one of these, and then it's going to calculate it for you. And it's going to be close to, I mean, within a couple dollars of what it should cost.
Yeah. And so let's assume that you're going to use calculated shipping, and then you're saying, well, how do I approach that? If I want to just do it, because again, like you're saying, I think for beginners that don't know what they're doing, this might be the right approach. It's like option one. So, you're going to look at your item. And what I like to do when I'm doing calculated shipping, because we actually do a lot of calculated shipping on our end.
Okay.
You lose a couple dollars here or there, but we like to beef up the dimensions quite a bit, which is the other approach where you can actually get a little bit of extra money for it. And also we buy labels at a discount, through eBay, and you get the Canada Post, the business discount, which we won't talk about today, but there are some options around it. But when we use calculated shipping, what I do is I take the item and I take the tape measure across, and I add however many inches on either side that I think I'm going to need for packing material. So I'll drag it out that way on each side. I'll write that as my dimensions. I'm going to measure it or weigh it out, and then I'm going to add maybe even a pound, to figure out, or, I don't know, 500, 1,000 grams, whatever, that I think is going to cost us, or that I think will actually be. And sometimes, again, we overinflate that to get a little bit more shipping money, but that's sort of the approach that we take, and what you could do if you wanted to use calculated shipping. But we could talk about flat rate, because flat rate is probably one of the most commonly used. I know I said calculated was, but maybe that's a little bit of a debated topic there. But flat rate's where you specialize. I've used it a bit. And I think the idea here is that you're going to charge a flat rate that will average out between the furthest location and the closest one. I'll let you sort of talk about that.
Yeah, and actually, as we're talking, I think there's a point that needs to be made that Canada Post is a little weird with what is considered a package or a parcel and what's considered like an oversized letter. All right. So essentially, a thing like a little game or a DVD or like a music CD, essentially something that's less thick than 2 centimeters, including the packaging and all that, you can get it passed as a letter or an oversized letter, which usually costs $2, $3, $4, $5, depending on the weight. But there's no tracking, but it's cheaper. So parcels like calculated shipping and flat rate shipping and all that stuff that we're talking about, that is going to be tracked. So there's going to be tracking on it, but we're talking about $15 to $20 of cost. So there's some things that it's going to make no sense to ship with calculated shipping, like the little stuff. But for the big stuff, like something that you're actually going to send out in a box, then it makes more sense for that. So for the flat rate shipping, essentially, what it is that you just decide, okay, anyone who buys this in Canada, I'm going to charge them $5 of shipping or $10 or 15 or whatever. You just choose a number and that person's going to get charged that amount, regardless of if they live in the Northwest Territories and it costs $30 to ship it, or if they live in the town, in the next town over and it costs $10 to ship it. So sometimes they're going to fall behind, sometimes they're going to come out ahead. But if you choose an average, overall, it's not really going to matter over the long run, assuming that you chose a price that makes sense. But it's a little riskier in the sense that you have to choose, you have to estimate what it's going to cost. And when you're just starting out, that can be maybe a little not easy, which is where the calculated shipping would be easier, where you just have to put, okay, this is what the package weighs and the sizes, and then they just do all the calculations for you. So I guess for someone just starting out, maybe it would make more sense to do the calculated shipping, but the flat rate is the same rate for everybody, but you can choose different rates depending on your listing. Like not all your listings have to have the same rate. But what you could do essentially is go on the Canada Post website and play around with addresses and be like, okay, if I send it here, it's going to cost this much. If I send it here, it would cost that much. And then you can kind of estimate an amount that you think would make sense to charge for it.
And when you look up find a rate on Google, you'll be taken to the Canada Post find a rate calculator, which is where you can play around with that stuff and enter dimensions, enter addresses, and you can actually, if you're not sure, you can see what it's going to cost you to send that parcel before you take it up to the post office or before you set a flat rate amount on eBay. And I'll just say, because you brought up Lettermail here, and Lettermail is going to be a really important thing if you are selling in Canada. Again, Lettermail, I always like to think of it as a DVD or a video game plus bubble wrap or a little bit of layer bubble and bubble mailer. That's going to be the maximum that you're going to be able to fit through. And there are some length and width dimensions there as well, which I don't have off the top of my head. Maybe you know them.
I can go look them up, but it's something like, so essentially it has to be less than 2 centimeters, well, maximum 2 centimeters thick. And I think it's,
is it like 30 or 25?
38
okay,
long. Yeah. That would be the absolute maximum. And then maybe 27 centimeters. Like, I think the maximum is 38 by 27 by 2, which is a really odd number, but I think that's the maximum. But you can Google that. Like the maximum dimensions for the Canada Post slot is what they call it. But it's essentially what they calculate would fit in a mail slot that most people have. So if you have something, so if you have a game, this is going to easily fit into the thing. But if you have a glass or a cup, that's not going to, they can't jam that into the mail slot.
Yeah. So that's a one way to look at it. And so when we're sending out Canada Post Lettermail items, it's the exact same dimensions for every price. The only thing that adjusts or affects the price will be the weight of that item. Yes. And so if you know the weight of your item, if you know that it's going to fit in that dimension that we just pre-specified, if it's going to go under that 2 centimeters, then you're good to now figure out what weight it's going to be and then charge according to that on a flat rate basis, which is actually what we do for all of our video games. We charge a flat rate for the Lettermail thing. Anything Lettermail gets charged flat rate for us. So let's say that's a video game. Most video games weigh between, with a manual and everything, they're going to be between 100 and 200 grams. That's going to be a $3.19 stamp, essentially. Now, they don't make a $3.19 stamp, so you can't buy that one specifically. They should, I know, but you can't buy that one specifically. So you could do a combination of real stamps to get over that amount. Any combination of stamps that surpass the minimum for that weight category will allow you to ship it, or you can go into Canada Post and they'll print you a little custom stamp for the exact amount, and that's the way that most people will be doing it off the bat. So that's one way to look at it. So you can charge according to your weight of your items that you're going to be charging through Lettermail, and that's how you can do the flat rate side of that. And then again, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but you'll end up taking it up to the post office and getting them to do a nice little stamp for you.
Yeah, so I mean, since we're on the Lettermail section, for us, I'd say probably 70% of our stuff goes Lettermail. That might be an exaggeration, but we send a lot of Lettermail. And so, like Commonlad said, most games, will weigh between 100 and 200 grams, which means it costs $3.19 plus tax. If it doesn't have a manual, a lot of games will weigh under 100 grams, which means they're going to cost $1.94 plus tax. Now, some games are a little heavier, or they might have 2 CDs, or they might have like 2 manuals and 2 inserts and like special 3D glasses or whatever. And for whatever reason, they might weigh 200 grams and over. So essentially, the way that the Lettermail works is if it's under, I think, 50 grams and very narrow dimensions, they only charge you as much as a letter. But for an oversized letter, which is up to 100 grams, is what we're talking about now. So if you're sending out like sports cards or Pokemon cards, it's only going to cost like $1 or something, $1.07, like whatever. But for games, it'll cost like $1.94 or $3 or something. If you're sending out a book that's not too thick, again, not thicker than 2 centimeters, that's more likely to be in the 200 to 400 gram range. But so essentially the scaling is $1.94 for below 100 grams, and then $3.19 for below 200 grams, or 100 to 200, and then 200 to 300 is $4.44, I believe. And then the next step after that, which is 300 grams to 400 grams, it is $5.07 or something like that. That's assuming
I've got the chart here.
That's assuming it goes in Canada, of course. And if you're sending it from Canada, and if it goes higher than that, I think you have to send it as Yeah,
they do have 547 for 400 to 500.
Okay.
Yeah, and that looks to be the limit.
Yeah, I think 500 grams is the limit. Then you have to send it as a parcel. To send it to the States as a letter mail, whatever, oversized letter mail, 100 grams and below, it's $3.19. And 100 grams to 200 grams is $5.57. And then above that, it's quite a bit more. So you might as well just send it as a small packet instead as a parcel, because it's
$11.14.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that's the big picture of the three, the letter mail, the parcels and all that stuff, flat rate versus calculated shipping. So what about free shipping? So free shipping, that's kind of a tricky one, because it's actually confusing when you first start, because it doesn't make any sense to not charge for shipping, right? Because you need to ship it. But the trick with free shipping is that it's kind of psychological. So what it really means is, so for example, this game, it's worth about $40 in total. So whether I charge $30 plus $10 shipping, or I charge $40 with no shipping, it costs the same thing. But psychologically, some people prefer to not pay for shipping and still pay a total of $40. And some people prefer to pay $30 and pay $10 for shipping. And both those types of people think they got a better deal than the other, but they both paid $40. So you do whatever makes sense for you, but we kind of have a healthy balance. And pretty much for us, anything that goes in Canada that would be sent out letter mail, we do free shipping. And anything that goes to the US, we charge a couple dollars just to make up the difference. But so for parcels, though, then we need to start charging because it's so expensive. But that's kind of how we do things, generally speaking.
I like how you brought the psychological game, because I think that's a constant debate in the community, is free shipping versus non-free shipping. Our experience, I charged free shipping for all my letter mail items for the first couple of years when I was doing this, and I found it worked very well. Again, we got that group of people that always thought they were getting a good deal because they didn't have to pay shipping. The trouble is that we would get offers and things that were below, our threshold, and we couldn't make the shipping. So you run into issues like that. So more recently, we changed to, charge a shipping rate and then have our items separated. I think it does bring some benefit, because when you're searching up an item, then you're just going to see the item price. I think in some of them, they show you the shipping if it's not international. So, but they see, now if it's a $7 item, now they see it's a $3.50 item with $3.50 shipping instead of a $7. So it's a psychological game. So it's all about figuring out what what's going to work for the buyers. eBay, though, I'll tell you, I think does prefer free shipping. So you'll get the boost in the rank with the free shipping, but you'll maybe lose a couple sales to the guys with the 350 or whatever. So it goes either way. But I think it's just sort of something that you need to figure out. But I think, like you said, for anything that's an actual parcel, I would probably avoid free shipping unless it's like a $200 item and you can ship it for $10 and you just want to throw it in. But I think for the most part, you can watch charter shipping on top.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about eBay liking free shipping, that is true. They have these little things that they like people to do, and free shipping is a thing that they like. And if you think about from the buyer's perspective, when they look for something in eBay, on the left they have like 20 options of things that they can filter out, and you can filter out anything that's not free shipping. Mm-hmm. So I would pretty much say have a healthy balance of both. Play around with both. I don't think doing the same thing all the time with all your listings for anything is good. Like, it's important to try things out because it's going to draw out different kinds of people. So for example, if like only selling the one type of thing, or only the one type of music, or the one type of game, or the one type of card, I think that limits you. So, but by trying different kinds of cards, they're taking different kinds of pictures, trying different pricing models, having the 350 price plus 350 shipping, and having another one at just $7 free shipping, you can see what works better for you. Because like, we're doing the video game stuff and some other, complementary products, but maybe for shoes, people prefer to see the shipping cost. Maybe like for me,
it's category specific.
Yeah. So for me, if I don't see the shipping cost, it bothers me, like as a buyer, because I'm like, I know that there's like so much shipping built into that. But at the same time, you don't want to charge a ridiculous amount for shipping because that pisses people off too, right?
Yeah.
So you just need to have that balance. But I think if you have a part of your store that's on free shipping and a part of your store that's on either flat rate or calculated shipping, whatever works out for you, I think as you're starting out, that would give you like a variety of things. But I mean, do whatever you understand when you're first starting out. I think that's the key. Like,
go ahead. I was just going to add to that, because I think there's actually one more important thing about shipping that we've forgotten on eBay, is that eBay takes a fee on whatever you're charging for shipping.
Correct.
So when you do a flat rate listing, or when you do even calculated for whatever reason, nobody can figure out why eBay doesn't tack that on top, but whatever, you're going to end up paying your 15% or whatever it is that you're being charged on the fee for the item. And that's to avoid, that was initially put in because people will do the $1 item with the $50 shipping for a $50 item or whatever and avoid the fees. So now they charge the fees on the shipping, and that's just something that you need to keep in mind. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's an important aspect as well that people need to keep in mind.
For sure. So to put it differently, eBay is going to charge their fee on the total that you collected from the buyer, except the tax. I think I don't know if they actually. Well, I'm not sure if they charge on the tax, but either way, they do charge on the item value plus the shipping, and it is a good point, because if you don't factor that in, you might get charged twice as much as you expected from eBay. But
because that comes back to our 350 and 350 example versus 7. Somebody might say, okay, well, 350, I'm going to charge way less fees because I'm only paying on half of the dollar amount. No, it's $7 total. In either case, you get charged the same fees.
Yeah. So what else? What else do we? Oh yeah. So why don't we talk about, unless there was anything else you want to say, why don't we talk about just best practices when packaging items? So again, you need to keep in mind that, so between Commonlad and I, we've got over 4,000 feedback. Like, we have thousands of transactions that went well, with the occasional one that didn't, but that's fine. It happens. But like, if someone looks at our feedback, they're going to see, all right, people are saying it gets there fast. People are going to say it gets there in good condition. People are going to say it was packaged well. But if they look at your store, and not judging, but I'm just saying, like, if you have a brand new store with no feedback or very little feedback, they don't see that social proof, that you've been doing well. So they don't know if you're sending out your first item or if you, they just don't know. So you want to avoid at all costs to get a negative feedback or to get an item that gets there broken, because like you're just starting out. It sucks to take a hit, like when you're like a loss when you're first starting out. So just do everything that you can to protect yourself, to make sure the stuff gets there in the same condition that was sent. And you can't help it if it gets run over by a tank, but I mean, like, just generally speaking, if it's packaged properly and you did everything that you could, that's all anyone can ask.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for the most part, going with more packaging, especially when you're starting out, is way better than going with less.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you need to like, and that's sort of something that we've learned too, is that like, you there's not much of a cost difference with Canada Post with regards to like, so don't think of it as like, oh yeah, each bill mailer is adding $5. Like it doesn't work like that. Like you're not going to be charged much more, if anything, for extra packaging if you have the general weight and size in there. So I think for the most part, it's better to make sure that your item gets there intact than just setting a PlayStation 2 in a box with nothing, to package it.
Yeah. And actually, I just want to say, never ever buy your shipping supplies from Canada Post.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Ever,
absolutely.
Never, ever. I was in line, just a slight rant. I was in line. I had 70 things to ship out. There was this lady who sold on Poshmark, and she had 3 pairs of pants to send out, and she paid $10 for
the
3
polymailers.
envelopes.
Oh,
Broke my heart. And I was like, hey, lady, you could get like 25 envelopes on Amazon for that price.
no kidding. Oh,
But,
at least.
yeah.
Yeah, we had like 30 cents on a polymailer. Like,
Yeah.
not 350.
Yeah. So anyway, shipping supplies, get them for as cheap as possible. Don't like just buy them on Amazon or find a local business or a local guy who's selling them for cheap.
Yeah, if not for free, like boxes
or for free. Yeah.
And like, oh man, yeah, there's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah.
Keep the stuff that's coming into your house.
Yes.
Yes. All your Amazon boxes.
Yeah.
Keep all those aside. All the or all the, not necessarily polymers because they're hard to reuse, but all the bubble wrap and all the packaging paper and envelopes, whatever. Like you can use all in the dollar store and those places. If you're starting out, is definitely like a cheaper alternative than Canada Post, anywhere for that matter. Like even
when I was first starting out, that's where I went, to the dollar store, other than getting whatever I could for free, just to fill out whatever I needed. Also, what you're going to need a measuring tape. You're going to need a small scale of some kind to weigh your packages. I mean, I guess in theory, you can just pack them up and bring them to the Canada Post, but it would be better for your education to kind of dig into it and,
I agree,
and do them one at a time. And I mean, I don't know, this might be $15 for a scale and $5 for, I mean, if you go to the dollar store, you can get an even cheaper one probably, but that's most of what you're going to need. But so best practices, let's talk about the whatever fits in the slot. So best practices for small stuff. So if I'm shipping this out, right? So this is a $40 game. So I want to pack this a little, like, with a little more tender loving care than like a $5 CD, right? So usually we send these out in a bubble mailer, that it's called. So essentially an envelope with some bubble wrap inside, but it's thin enough that it'll still fit in the slot and doesn't add too much weight. I think it adds like 10 grams. So this would probably still be, actually I weighed this earlier. This is like 130 grams. So it's going to cost $3.19 plus tax to ship this little sucker with the bubble wrap. But I guess it doesn't have to be complicated, but just like that makes sense. But those like DVDs and games are pretty like durable, but a CD is very crackable.
They'll crack. Yep.
Do not put this in just an envelope with no bubbles or whatever. Like make sure your stuff's gonna get there not broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like I would just think about it. If you drop this when you're packing it on your table, if you dropped it off your table right now and it would break, you're off to a really bad start. Because Canada Post is going to do that at least 10 times on the way to the buyer. It was funny. I was dropping off a bunch of things at the post office the other day, and I was there just when the truck was arriving. and I had a PS2, a PS3, a couple other consoles, and then a bunch of games. And so the guy said, okay, rush out, you can hand it to the guy in the truck. So I do. I hand the PS2, it's in this big box, and the guy throws it into the back of the truck. And I'm like, dude, right in front of me. But that's the sort of thing you got to account for, right? Is that sort of handling of the package. You might be able to take it very precariously up to the post office, but the next person's going to just chuck it.
And I want to say just a little bit about the Canada Post insurance claims. I inquired a few times. So it's very rare that we've had a problem with like items being damaged. But
they're actually pretty good. We should just say that. Like they are actually
they're great with that.
They're better than the States. They're actually really good with parcels. I shouldn't hate on them too much because they're actually really good with them.
Yeah.
We don't have any issues really.
So there's one or two times that I wanted to potentially make a claim, but it was someone that was claiming that it was broken, but ends up that it wasn't, but that's a whole other story. So I called just to find out what the process was. And it's a very tedious process to make an insurance claim with them. So like, if you can avoid it by packaging your items securely, it's just better that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess there's not that much more to say about, the small stuff. Just make sure that you package it in a way that it's not going to get broken, like whatever. So for stuff that you put in a box, so you mentioned a PlayStation 2, so that's a video game console. So usually video game consoles, electronics in general, they're not very tough. Like they can crack, they can break just by rattling. Like if you have a computer in a box, just by rattling it, the video card can get broken. So that's why they actually ship video cards separately. Like you need to be careful with that kind of stuff. But I will say for stuff like video game consoles, the way that we do it is we wrap it in bubble wrap, not an abundant amount, but like maybe 2 layers, whatever, like a decent amount. And then we just shove a bunch of newspaper. And the goal is that once it's all packed, if you can pick up the box and shake it, nothing moves, basically. And if you move it side to side, nothing moves because it'll move in the truck. It'll move when they throw it around. And if there's room for it to move, there's room for it to break. So make sure as much as possible for it not to move. And if you can't afford bubble wrap, you can get it for free at furniture stores or like grocery stores or all that. Or if you know someone that sells like random MLM products, they'll have box fillers that they can give you. But you can get like an unlimited amount of newspaper for free. Just ask around. Like we get junk mail every week and I save mine. A few family members save theirs, and it's plenty for us to be able to ship like 200 items every week. So like newspaper is great packing paper. You don't need fancy colored stuff. No, just send them the story about the guy who's whatever, right? Like we have terrible, like our front page stories are totally boring here, but we're sending them out to people all over the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but instead of paying like $20 for packing paper, just use newspaper and bunch it up and just shove it and then make sure that it's snug. And yeah.
I agree. And that's actually the exact same way that I've done it, is wrap it with a couple layers of bubble wrap, throw some packing paper in, you're good to go. I find that actually like it's taking a lot of packing paper, at least for me when I'm purchasing it. So I think maybe I should look at some newspaper and stuff, because you're right. Like I could use 20 sheets in a PS2 sometime, or whatever. Yeah, maybe not 20, but you can use quite a bit. But yeah, you essentially just want you want the item floating in the middle of the box, but without any room to move. If you can pick it up and it still shakes, more paper. And that's basically just the way to do it. And I think that basically covers sort of unless there's anything else that you have to add, that's sort of, you want to copy that over for most items. Even when we ship out like remote controls or, a PlayStation controller or whatever it is, we usually use the exact same strategy of just giving it a layer of bubble wrap and then, a packing paper or two in a little 8x6x4 box or whatever, and we're on our way. So I think that's sort of going to be applied across the board.
Yeah, that's pretty much the universal. The only thing I'm going to say is if you're shipping glass, put extra stuff. You need to make sure it doesn't break. So we've sent a a group of four, a lot of 4 beer glasses that were all in their individual boxes. We wrapped it in like a big square of bubble wrap, and then just put a bunch of newspaper around it and put that in the box. But yeah, like just use your common sense. Do you think, is there a possibility that this can break if it's sent like this? Can you notice an obvious weakness in the shipping, like in the packaging? If yes, fix that. You need to remove yourself as a possible source of problems for this to happen, because we've sent, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm just saying it to give numbers. Like we've sent, I don't know, between 10 and 15,000 items in the past year and a half. And maybe 2 came back broken, and it was our fault when we first started. And the other one was someone that said it was broken, ends up it wasn't broken, and then it just became this whole thing. But that wasn't our fault. So like, you don't have to be a packing genius or having had done this ever before to be able to do it. Like, I'm not good with stuff like that, but I learned how to do it.
Yeah, and so I think now we can move on to your items sold. How are you going to ship it out? And people they think all fancy with this. They think like, okay, can you buy labels online? Yes, you can. You know, should I do it through eBay? Should I do it through Canada Post Snapship? Should I do it through all these tools that you've heard about? Should I be purchasing online? Or could you do what most beginners do and just walk into the post office? And what do I tell the person when I get there? Or how should I have my box prepared when I get there?
Yeah.
And there's all these kind of different ideas of how you can ship things. I think this is the number one area where people kind of get scared off the platform.
It's a lot of information to take in.
It is.
So, I mean, there's no shame in just walking into. So when you get to the post office, everything needs to be packaged and ready to go, right?
Yeah,
so
they won't do that for you.
They don't do that for you. So, well, actually, they might, but they charge like $30 or whatever. But so the item needs to be packaged securely. Everything needs to be taped, and you need to have your return address and the address that it's going to and the name of the person with you, whether it's on the box or not, as long as you have it with you. And they can walk you through the steps if you've never done it before. And you can do that for your first few times. I mean, I wouldn't walk in with 10 of those, but likely you've only sold 1 or 2 things. And if you want their help, they could help you out. But for small stuff, like stuff that fits in the mail slot, you just basically shove that in a bubble envelope, you seal it, Okay. So we don't use any fancy stuff at all. We are going to look at something else that you and I talked about. But so right now we're just printing basically the order. So in the eBay back office, you can print the orders one at a time. You can print what's called a pick list, PICK. So it's going to have the name of the item and the address of the buyer. But your address is not on there. So when you're first starting out, you can just print out the full page, which is called the packing slip, I think, or the invoice, whatever. And it has all that information plus your information. You can just cut out your address and their address, and you just tape that to the bubble, to the envelope, and you can just send that out. You can start that way because you're only going to be sending a few a week or whatever. And I mean, for the small stuff, there's nothing complicated really to be done.
Yeah, I think when I started, I did my first 20 parcels probably written out by hand. And I think that's the easiest way to do it if you don't want to be intimidated. And I think your way is great, but maybe that's like the next step up. Or if you want to, if you're a little more technical or whatever, you can go ahead and do that off the bat. There's no shame. If you have a printer, print out the guy, take a plain Word doc and copy and paste the guy's address in it, or the girl, whoever purchased it, take their address in it, copy paste your address in it, and print that sheet and cut them out. Like, that's the whole idea here, right? It's just you're going to cut it out and tape it on. But I just wrote them out. I wrote the name, and I wrote so name in the middle of who it's going to, return address top left side always, and you're ready to go. And you can walk that into the post office and you can tell them, I would like to ship this via lettermail or via oversized lettermail via the slot. They should know what one of those means. Some people, they don't quite know if they're new or whatever, and you might have to explain to them which one to use. But that's sort of the idea, and they should be able to figure that out for you. Or again, the same thing if you're just shipping a normal box and you've done it that way with the address, then you're going to just take it in and say, I want to ship this regular mail, and they'll just do it all for you on the address. And that's sort of the way to do it for your first few before you start buying labels online, or using Snapship, or getting your business thing set up with Canada Post, or even just printing labels. But I think that's a good way to start. And then after that, I started printing labels too.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do it. Just start with what you can figure out when you're just getting started. And then after you've done 20, like he said, you can be like, okay, how can I do this a little faster, or a little smarter, or a little better, or like whatever, right? So, so that was for the smaller stuff. And for like a big box of things, again, when you're just starting out, you can just write out the address. I did that a long time ago as well when I was first starting out, but I have terrible handwriting.
No, same here. Yeah,
Oh,
half the stuff I'm sure wouldn't have made it, like if I kept doing that.
I know. So sometimes sometimes I still write out the address on something, and Jeremy has to print out the label because he thinks it's so bad. But anyway, so when you're first starting out, like you may want to just write out the address, and not print out the label on your own, because it can be a little overwhelming, and they can walk you through the process when you're at the Canada Post. But once you've done a few of them, I would recommend that you sign up for something that they call a small business account with Canada Post, and it's free. And we're not sponsored by Canada Post. I wish we were. We'd get a discount because we pay them so much money. but so it gives you instant discounts just for signing up. And I think it's like 15 to 20% off on not letter mail stuff, like not the cheap stuff, but like the expensive stuff. You get a decent discount even on your first parcel. And then you can tinker around with it, and you just go through it. So you're going to be like, create a shipment. It's going to have your address. You're going to plug in their address. You're going to put in the dimensions and the weight of the package. You're going to choose whatever cheapest option is available to you to get it shipped. And then they're going to charge you. And then you're going to print it out. I mean, when you're first starting out, you can just print it on paper and then tape it to the box. That's still what we're doing now. But when you're more used to it, you can do like Commonlad and print it on actual sticky labels and be cool and tech savvy.
Yeah, we do the thermal labels now, but I think that's correct. Like for the longest time as well, we would just be taping paper onto the boxes or onto the mailers, and that's the best. Like it's such an easy way to do it, and I think that's accessible for everybody to do, and it doesn't involve much complications in the tech world. I think another thing too, and I'm just going to bring this up because it's something that we've used more recently, and it might not be a fit for everybody, but maybe some of you guys could benefit from it. When we purchase, if you're doing calculated shipping on eBay and you've already entered all your packing dimensions on there, you can go into your notifications where something is sold. You can actually click on that thing that's sold. It will bring you to the eBay interface for shipping something out. And you can do exactly what JF just talked about there, except through eBay. And you can update your dimensions there to make them accurate to whatever they actually are when you have your box packed. And it's literally that simple. You can pay for it there, and eBay will deduct that amount from the amount that they are going to pay you out for the item that you sold. And that's sort of a way that you can do it too. They'll give you a label. You're going to take that label, tape it on the box again, just like you would with Canada Post. And you're still going to need, I think you still need the business card for this. Am I right? I might not.
So I've never used it, but that's the thing that we want to explore.
Yeah, it's just something to test out. But but they will have that address already inputted in there for you, which is kind of the helpful thing. They'll have if there's a customs form, they'll have that already filled out for you and all that stuff. So it is a helpful thing, and they have the same options as Canada Post, and you can print through there as well and just get it on a normal, 8x11 sheet of paper. But again, you don't need a printer for this stuff. Just if you had to, worst case, you can write out. But a printer is probably highly advisable for anybody that wants to get serious about this.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're first starting out, you probably know someone that has a printer. You work somewhere already that has a printer. I'm not encouraging that you use business corporate resources for your own private business. But, you do what you got to do when you're first starting out. But I want to say that I think we need to have, here's the mindset that I suggest. When you're first starting, just soak up as much information as you can. And you can try and rely, assuming they're reliable, you can try to rely on the postal workers. But the goal is to get you to a point where you understand the system enough that by the point that you walk into the Canada Post Office, everything's already ready to go as much as possible, because the bigger your store gets, the more stuff you're going to get shipped and the more time it's going to take them to do their thing. And they might start to not like you if like you're always bringing stuff that's not complete, and if they need to help you every time. Like at first it's fine, like don't get me wrong, but as you're getting bigger and as you're getting more experienced, I mean, of course they're going to prefer the person that shows up and be like, okay, here's my pile, it's already paid. Here's my pile that costs $2. Here's my pile, it's $3.19. Like it takes them 5 minutes to do mine, and we're talking about 60 or 70 orders, and it can take them longer to just do one with another person because they're not as organized. So just learn to be more reliant on yourself, because although it takes more time in your home, it's going to save you a lot of time in the post office. And it's going to like, because here's what happens sometimes. So you get, let's say you just have 10 packages. You get there with 10 packages. Some have labels, some don't. Some have the name, some don't. And you're in line, but there's two people behind you. And then the lady hasn't had her break yet. And then you're next. And then you plop your pile there, and then she's just like, "Oh no, is this weighed? Is this paid? Is this that?" And then there's two more people that get in line, and then the girl gets nervous and they get all antsy, and then they screw it up. So like you can just avoid all that and just be like, "All right, this is all ready. I need you to print me some stickers, or I need you to do this, or this is already paid." Like so, and that way, you're not adding a burden. Of course, it's their job. Like they're just doing their job. But at the same time, if you can be the nice guy or the nice gal that kind of brings them stuff already prepared. And as a side note, if you have a really good postal worker, I suggest you buy them a Christmas gift.
No way you said that. I did that too.
Yeah, I did that too. We're so Canadian right now. I bought so out of all the postage workers that I have, I probably bought the worst one a gift, but he totally needed it. So like just the guy who's always like, "Oh, I'm not happy. Like this job sucks, but I need a job." And then I gave him, I think it was a $25 gift card to whatever it was. It like blew his mind. Big grown man almost cried. And he was like, "It's so nice. Tell them you appreciate them, even if they're just doing their job, because most people that walk in there are demanding and snapping.
Terrible to them. Absolutely.
Just like, man." And like just saying a thank you, or you're doing, and when they're stressed out, just be like, "You're fine. You're doing all right. There's just one more," or whatever. Like, you're almost like a life coach.
Yeah, you got to help them, right? And I think that story that you told me, it's just like that's called post office anxiety. It's just like you got all these things and nobody has a clue what's going on. The line starts to form, and everybody's yelling. It's just a whole thing. So you got to be ready, and you got to have all your things lined up, like you said. And if you have a larger volume and as many labels and things you can get prepaid as possible is what you should try to do.
One of the first videos I ever made was, what do you do when the post office worker goes postal? Or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so guys, like, it's your business. I mean, you can blame all these other people if there's problems, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to pay the postage twice if it doesn't go through. Like it's your customer that's not going to be happy if there's a delay. You're the one. They say poop rolls downhill, right? So you're the one. At the same time, you're at the top and at the bottom of the hill because you're handling customer service. So you need, like, it's important to take care of the people that are helping you also. I'm not saying buy them a car, but I mean, you can even just buy them a Christmas card and be like, "I appreciate you." And they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. I am not joking.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just familiarizing yourself with all the different options and rates and knowing what you're talking about will just assist them. And not like, I know what I'm doing and you don't know what you're doing, but more like, I can help you versus I'm going to put this all on you, which I think is sort of the approach.
Yeah, I think with that, we've had to train ourselves, a lot of the people that have. Yeah. So we're at like the most ghetto, and I'm really sorry if you're ever watching this. We're probably at the most ghetto Canada Post in our area. And like, it's, there's a lot of turnover, but they finally got like a good manager. And so we got her trained, and now there's a new girl and we're trying to get her trained anyway, whatever. So
I've been behind the counter. Let's just say that.
Really?
Oh yeah, to
Oh,
put something
but
in
not
on
as
the,
a worker, just as
no, not as a, no, no,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I worked it. No, I didn't, but
Yeah, yeah,
but just to help people, because literally when they have new people in, it's like, what is it? And I'm like, okay, hold on, let me see.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like you say, like you literally can train them if you know what you're talking about.
But so I think we're just kind of ranting now. But so at the end of the day, big picture, there's a lot of different options. There's a lot of information, but you've got 3 options for charging for shipping. You can do free shipping, flat rate shipping, or calculated shipping. We talked about the different pros and cons of the different ones, but essentially, I think we can kind of agree, kind of a mixture of whatever makes sense, but it doesn't all have to be the same, but what makes sense for you, and how to package things carefully, what costs what, and what kind of supplies you're going to need. Oh yeah, of course you're going to need some boxes and some envelopes and stuff, but you can get most of that for free. And I think that covers just about everything we wanted to go over.
I think so.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching.
This has been good.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. So guys, thanks for watching. We love making these videos for you, and we've got so much to talk about, as you can see. But we really hope this has been helpful for you. Make sure you drop your comments and your questions, because we'd like to answer questions in future videos. We're trying to make this as interactive as possible. And make sure you bounce around in our videos, because we've got a few others before this one. And by the time you watch it, we might have another one. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.